Devin, is there anyone else online? Good afternoon, everyone. Calling to order the meeting of the Buncombe County Board of Elections for Tuesday, June 13th, 2023. It is 3:33 p.m. I'm Jay Quinn. I chair the Board of Elections. Thank you all for being here. This is the biggest audience we've had in a while. It's really great to see so many chairs filled. I will just point out that our official record of attendance is the little book on the podium by the door. If you haven't had a chance to sign in that book, I hope you'll do so before you leave the meeting. But as I said, that is our official record of attendance. I'm here today with Glenn Schultz and Linda Block. Steve Aceto is here virtually, and Bo Carpenter cannot be with us today. We have a fairly brief agenda, and I know that we want to get through it rather swiftly. So if anyone has questions, please ask. Please hold them till the end of the presentation on whichever agenda item. And I'll give a couple of minutes at the end of the meeting if anyone has any general questions. So without any further ado, the first item of business is a review of the minutes of our last meeting. Colleagues, did everyone get a chance to take a look at the minutes from April the 25th?
I'm not sure I saw the very last version, so I wouldn't mind just giving it a scan. I think there were some changes. Thanks.
Jake, I'm not sure your mic is working.
Testing, testing.
That's better.
All right, loud and clear. Thank you, Diane.
Okay.
All right. Everyone's had a chance to review the minutes of the meeting of April the 25th. I move that we approve the minutes of the April 25th meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you, Mr. Aceto. That is 4 votes in favor and no votes opposed. The motion carries.
Do I sign these since I wasn't here?
No.
Please don't sign them if you weren't here.
That's what I thought I was not.
That's fine. Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Next up, Director Duncan, may we please receive office updates?
Thank you. We have a lot of happy updates, and I wanted to start by welcoming our new absentee specialist. So people who are on the board will see this person very frequently in 2024, and that is Justin Tate.
Greeting, everyone.
Welcome, Justin Tate.
We're super happy to have him on our team. He was deputy director in Avery and Burke County previously. He also did some swimming in the brewery industry. So he's coming back to elections and has been a joy to work with so far. Been with us almost a month. So
It's been a pleasure.
welcome, Justin.
Thank you, guys.
Justin, welcome. And Buncombe sounds like the perfect fit. We lead the state in electoral practices and brewing practices.
I love it. Love it. Thank you, guys.
We also will be welcoming our registration specialist next Tuesday. Her name is Shannon Cole. So we're happy that we're filling our working on filling our open positions. That's really good news. I don't want to go into these pieces of legislation, but there are 3 bills so far that I think you all should keep your eyes on. One is Senate Bill 747. That has a lot of changes in it. So there's lots of impacts to elections in that bill. Then there's House Bill 66. That one impacts Buncombe County Schools District, the actual districts themselves, and then the type of election. So it would be adding a primary where that one's passed. And then very recently, Senate Bill 749. That one in particular of interest to the board because it changed the board structure and how appointments are made. Those are 3 bills so far to watch. We're also making great progress on our project list, is reducing from the 33 that I talked about last time. So we're ticking those off. I'm feeling really great about how the team is doing. And one particular success that I wanted to point out is that our precinct chair training, which Karen led, I think that was the most successful one that we have ever had. The training was exceptional, and we had great turnout. So usually we only get about 40 precinct chairs coming to our those trainings, and we had 100 this time.
Outstanding.
Yes, it was really great. And I think people enjoyed it too. They were really useful training. And then the final thing that I wanted to just point out is that elections are coming, things are happening. So on the 20th, next Tuesday, that is when the county commissioners officially adopt the budget, which would mean if they accept it, there's the mic. Sorry. Okay, so back to the schedule. The next Tuesday, the 20th, that's when the county commissioners accept their budget, adopt whatever budget they're going to adopt. So that would be where express vote would be adopted. So if they do that, that would be the official adoption of express vote. So that's on Tuesday, and their meeting starts at 5 p.m. And all of these things are actually on Tuesdays. The next thing of interest to you all is on the 27th. That is when the state board will announce the new board appointments. So on the 27th, we will know who the board is composed of. On the 7th of July, filing begins for Weaverville, Woodfin, and Woodfin Water and Sewer. And that's the 7th through the 21st filing begins. And then filing starts at noon and ends at noon. Then on the 18th of July, the new board will take their oath. And we'll do that at the county courthouse. That's also at noon. And then on the 25th is something new that we have added. And that is an all-day, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. board training. So we'll have everyone who is appointed come and do an all-day training. Then on the 1st of August, the early voting plan for the municipal elections is due. So you will have to meet about that plan then. And that should be a really simple plan. Only one of the cities asked for one additional site for one day. So I think that'll be pretty straightforward for everyone. And then just to not go too far into the future, the next thing to be aware of is August 13th through the 15th is the state board training that's required for the board. So whoever is appointed on the 27th will need to attend that training the 13th through the 15th. Those are all of my updates.
Colleagues, any questions? All right, moving right along. Item 3 is the main event for this meeting, and it is a resolution, a board resolution to set the election director's salary. And I'll do the presentation on this one for a change. Last summer, this board reviewed the director's salary with an eye towards making sure that it met the requirements of the North Carolina general statutes. And those requirements are that the elections director be paid a commensurate salary with, commensurate to the election director salaries in the counties that are similarly situated, have similar numbers of population and voter registrants in those counties. And doing a review of the 100 counties, it became apparent that there are 4 counties that are Bunkom's peers when it comes to this sort of comparison. Those 4 counties have total population and total voter registration within 25% of Buncombe's total. And those 4 counties are Cumberland County, that's Fayetteville, Durham County, Durham, New Hanover County, Wilmington's the largest city there, and Union County, where Monroe is the largest county. Union is just to the southeast of Mecklenburg County, a suburb of Charlotte. In doing the review, information was collected from the Buncombe County Human Resources Department, from the UNC School of Government, and from the Human Resource Departments of those 4 counties that I just mentioned. Population figures, that was a little tough. So we used a very objective source. It's called worldpopulationreview.com. And for number of registered voters, we used North Carolina State Board of Elections, a statistical summary. Use those statistics as of the April 8th, 2023 reporting date. This review's been going on for a while, and that was one of the building blocks. We got salary figures, historic salary figures from the UNC School of Government's County Salaries in North Carolina survey, which is a fascinating survey. If you Google it, and I'll say the title again, County Salaries in North Carolina, it is an incredible wealth of information about public sector salaries in this state. It is a survey conducted by the UNC School of Government, and it is updated every year or two. We didn't have the latest and greatest data, but the professor with whom I spoke there pointed me in the direction of where I could find it. That's why we ended up contacting the Human Resource Departments. With that as background, we noted that the average salary for those 4 counties that I mentioned, in 2020, that average salary was a little over $97,000. In 2021, it was just shy of $100,000. In 2022, it was about $111,000, and this year it's about $114,000. Last year, when we set the salary for our director, we set it at $99,969, onto which was added a cost of living adjustment that boosted it a bit over $101,000. Now, it's my recommendation, after reviewing all of this information and reviewing the law, which is the salient passage is section 163-35 in the North Carolina General Statutes. It's my recommendation that we set the director's salary at $107,186.13 for the coming fiscal year, which begins on July 1st. Now, if anyone is wondering how such a strange number was arrived at, I'm here to give you that answer. Buncombe County employees are scheduled to receive a 7.29% cost of living adjustment beginning on July 1st. And if we add 7.29% to the 107,186.13, it would make the director's salary an even $115,000 for the coming fiscal year. So that is my recommendation. We've drafted a resolution. And having done this resolution last year, we used the language from a year ago and just updated it. Colleagues, do you have any questions about anything that I was just talking about?
I do.
Ms. Black?
So when you quote the salaries, where do the benefit packages fit into that picture?
The benefit package is not part of the analysis, and that is because 163-35 doesn't talk about that. It talks about salaries.
Okay.
And so the review was focused on salaries. Now, that said, I will again commend everyone to the County Salaries in North Carolina survey, where there is data provided about the benefits packages available to employees county by county. Unfortunately, that is just a recitation of different elements, different benefit elements that are available, but it doesn't give us a quantification as to their value. And that's kind of the difficulty on this. The information is out there, and with 100 counties, as you might imagine, there is tremendous variety in the sorts of benefits that are available to county employees. Some counties, you get a car, you get a computer, you get a cell phone. Other counties, you don't get any of that sort of thing. It's just really all over the map. Vacation days are actually different county by county as well. Holidays are different county by county. So it's a sort of a, I just couldn't pin down a number on that.
That, I mean, her benefits would be consistent with the rest of the county employees, right?
Yes, benefits are consistent within the county, but in comparing to four other counties, I understand what Ms. Block's looking for. She says, okay, you compare the salaries, what's the comparison on benefits? And that's where you hit a wall, because you can't reduce it to a dollar and cents number.
But you also compared her salary to other positions similar stature in this county. Is that true?
I did, and again, the survey was absolutely invaluable in enabling a review of department head salaries. And in reviewing department head salaries in Buncombe County, it became apparent that the elections director was, if not the lowest paid department head, the next lowest paid department head. So relative to the department head peers in Buncombe County, it was on the low side, and that probably won't change a whole lot.
And where does years of experience figure into these calculations?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I will point out to everyone that in the survey that's conducted by the UNC School of Government, there is information given about the number of years that the incumbent has occupied the position. And at this point, our director, who only started in 2020, is beginning to look like a veteran compared to other counties. There has been a bit of turnover. That said, there's some counties where people have been the elections director for many, many years.
How about these counties? I think there was one turnover that you mentioned on here.
Well, yeah, in Cumberland County.
The salary went from 100.
Well, there were some really dramatic changes in some of these. In Cumberland, I asked how come it fell, and they said new hire. And I went back to Durham. In Durham, they reported a salary of about $106,000 in 2020, $109,000 in 2021, $140,000 in 2023, and $164,000 this year. And when I saw those numbers, I was skeptical. Mm-hmm. So I reached out to the UNC School of Government professor who conducts the survey and inquired about it. And long story short, I ended up going to the Durham County Human Resources Department to verify. And when they verified the 164, I asked them to verify it again. And I've got the correspondence in here.
And so there was no change of hire there.
No, it's the same person, and I don't know what's going on in Durham County, but I'm guessing that would be a good place to be a county employee at the moment. You didn't hear that.
That would be consistent with looking at the statute as setting a floor and not a ceiling.
Yes, sir.
What'd you say, Glenn?
That would be consistent with looking at the statute 163-35C and reading that language as setting a floor and not a ceiling. There's one way of reading the statute where you say, well, it looks like they're pegging a low and a high. There's another way of reading the statute where you say this sets a floor but not a ceiling on the salary. Mr. Quinn, in his resolution, has adopted the first reading as pegging it to comparably situated counties as opposed to setting a floor and not a ceiling.
Right.
If you set a floor and not a ceiling, then you don't have to worry about, well, you still do have to, in some sense, have to worry about what the other counties are paying, but you're not tied to that range.
Mr. Quinn,
Yes, Mr. Aceto.
how are you all?
Very well. It's good to hear your voice, my friend.
Okay, good to be with you virtuously. I don't have the statute in front of me, and it looks like maybe Glenn has it, but I would just I can't quote it back, but my recollection is that the language that Jake picked up for the resolution comes out of the statute, and it says it directs us to set a salary. It doesn't specify whether that's the floor or ceiling. It says it should be established within these parameters. So there's room to maneuver there, but it's like most election statutes. It's kind of hard to find a right line there. But the point is, I think Jake did the right exercise, which was come up with an average and try to peg to it. And I can only speculate on why that law is in there, and the only thing I can think of is that otherwise some counties would use salary and benefits as a stick to beat the director with if they didn't like what he or she were doing. On the other hand, it might be an attempt to influence the director. So the statute wisely says basically find a spot there that's comparable to what other people are doing in similarly situated counties. So I don't know if we have to be precise, but I don't see it as a floor or a ceiling. I think it's just a directive, and I don't think it makes a hoot what the rest of the county gets paid. This is a statute that tells us what boards of election directors are supposed to get paid, and the idea is to support their independence and avoid them being punished or manipulated. So, which is exactly what we set out to do. And I'm in favor of the motion as presented.
Yeah, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Whitney for getting Mr. Aceto on our speaker so loud and clear. Steve, it's like you're in the room. It's fantastic. And thank you for your comments. We'll continue the discussion. I'm just going to move that we approve the resolution. I hear a second from Mr. Aceto. So now discussion. Ms. Block, did you have a question, comment?
Yeah, well, first, I appreciate the research that you've done. I know that you probably spent hours talking to people and looking online and debating and considering, and I really appreciate that. I just have a few other questions, again, just so I'm clear on, how it all works. And so it sounds like the salary is considered outside of benefits, but those might vary by county.
They do.
But that's not part of what we have to, by law, consider?
Right, because 163-35 speaks specifically to salaries. And please, Mr. Schultz, you've got the book
You've got
open in
the-
front of you. I mean, if you see anything anything else, you know, please.
I trust you on the law.
Oh, okay. No, it just says salary.
Yeah.
Okay. So then my other questions, and where does performance fit into it? And where does looking at all the salaries that are happening within Buncombe County Board or Election Services, how do we make sure that everything is proportional or,
Oh, well, I mean, it's a great question. The only salary that we are directed to review and set is the directors. All of the other salaries would fall under the Buncombe County personnel guidelines. And you might recall we got a presentation from the Human Resources Director, Sharon Burke, last year about a review that had been conducted of county employee salaries. Her main interest was talking to us about our director's salary, but she did remind us that the entirety of the operation had been reviewed, and it's my understanding that there were some adjustments made based on that review. Now, I'm expecting that whatever the county implemented was fair, but I honestly don't know the results.
will the salary that, and I mean, you might not know the answer, but will the salary that we set for the director impact how human resources determine salaries for the workers?
I would not expect that to be the case. I need to take 2 steps back and point out something that I should have mentioned during my earlier presentation. And that is, I shared everything with Sharon Burke, the Human Resources Department head, throughout this process. Before any of you had heard anything from me, Ms. Burke had read everything. She knew, she helped me. It's one of the reasons that I contacted the HR departments. She thought that the review was sound, and I got a good data exclamation point. And it's like, all right, all right.
I know you researched.
I'm guessing that if there are any questions about the staff salaries in election services, that our director will meet with her supervisor and address any concerns that she might have, or explore any issues that she might want to. But it's just not our purview. And that's just based on the 163-35. When we did this last year, I began to appreciate how narrow the law was, the 163-35, that really just focused on salaries. Because I asked about other elements of the compensation package last year, and we really didn't get anything. And it was pointed out, well, Jake, the law just says salaries. And as Mr. Aceto just noted, the law says compare it to similar counties, not compare it to the rest of the staff or the rest of your own county's things. So that was really the focus, just really wanting to follow what the general statute said on that and not expanding it. That said, I certainly understand where you're coming from on this.
Yeah, I just don't want to see a big gap.
Mm-hmm. And I'm guessing that no one in election services wants to see a big gap, because it's counterproductive. It's not good for morale. And so it remains to be seen what happens in the coming months, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's something.
And then my other question again is performance. From what I see, I think you're doing a great job, but I'm not working under you on a daily basis, and I don't know if there was, does staff give feedback? What kind of evaluation process is there? What kind of data is there from your supervisor evaluating your performance? Anything that we can look at that would let us know?
I don't have any documentation. I did meet with DK Wesley 3 months ago, to kick off the discussion on this topic. And when I met with Ms. Wesley, it was clear that she viewed our elections director as an outstanding employee. That happens to be a view that I share.
I'm just curious, and I agree with what you're saying about Ms. Duncan. Is there a performance review that she goes through every year? Or?
Ms. Duncan, if you could tell us what sort of review the county conducts.
So the county is changing their review process, and previously there were annual reviews that weren't scheduled as tightly as what is going to be planned. So I have had one annual review since starting as director in 2020. And in July, next month, they'll be kicking off it's called Achieve Together, and it's for the entire county, where there will be 3 check-ins in a year and an annual review. And those will be strictly held to. So the process for me will start again in July.
And when was that review done? You were hired in 2020?
I would have to look to make sure, but it was, I think it was 2021 or early 2022.
So there's 3 check-ins, which I take to be a meeting with is it DK Wesley that you report to?
That's correct.
And then there's a formal paper and pencil review done every year?
Yeah, it'll be through our Workday system. It was paper and pencil before, so now it'll be through Workday, which will be an automatically scheduled review, and that is for everyone in the county, not just management.
Does anyone have any more questions?
Are we privy to that information when it happens, or is that kind of?
I don't know. I have not explored that. When I met with Ms. Wesley, we weren't sharing documentation, we were sharing perspectives. And, we were both reading off the same page in that regard. But that's a really good question, and it's one that, I would hope to explore with Ms. Wesley and see if there's room to incorporate something from the board in that review.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see a salary commensurate or, comparable to others and other places. And our elections go smoothly. I'm happy with a lot of the changes that have been going on. I mean, again, from the outside perspective, it seems like a no-brainer. And I'm a data person. I'd like to,
Right.
Know more making this decision.
Understood. All right, if there are no more
Mr.
questions.
Quinn.
Yes, sir, Mr. Aceto.
Mr. Quinn, I just wanted, just got run a brief commercial here for our election laws. There's a lot of wisdom in those laws, and here's a law that tells us that the elections director is different from any other county employee, and that we want the elections director to be paid commensurate with a benchmark of other similar counties. We don't want to appear to be rewarding them for a particular result in an election or anything else. We want to preserve the complete independence and the appearance of independence of the director. And so it might seem a little strange wording when you first look at it, and also that it requires us to decouple this position from the other county positions. But that's what's unique about it, is that it's another chink in the wall of election integrity, that the election director is compensated according to a different standard than anyone else, and that's all about independence, and it's all about making certain that compensation can't in any way be there would be no perception that it's linked to a particular election result.
Right.
Have to be completely independent.
Right.
So there's some wisdom in there that's been handed down to us.
Thank you.
Seems a little strange at first, but drilling down into it, it's something to admire. But I'm ready to vote if you are.
Thank you, sir. And Steve, I would not characterize that as a commercial. I would characterize that as a public service announcement. Much better. There is a motion before the board, and I will call a vote now. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Thank you. The motion carries 4-0. Next on the agenda is next meeting date. We're at the end of the agenda. And as we have heard, the next meeting will be on August 1st for early voting plan. Is that right, Ms. Duncan?
Yes, so July 18th is the appointment, which is not a meeting.
Right.
Then we would have the new board training, which is also not a meeting. And then, so the next scheduled meeting is August 1st for the
Great.
early voting plan for the meeting.
All righty. Thank you, everybody. Did anyone have any questions or comments before the meeting ends? Mr. Black?
Yes, for those who may not be aware, there is a current rulemaking process underway for the rules having to do with voter ID. Public comment is open until the end of next week. You can comment by various means, there's a portal, by email, by phone, by phone. But you only have until next Friday.
June 23rd.
To make your comments. However, this is a temporary rule because they are not abiding by the required period of public comment, represent the shortest time until the next election. You'll get another shot at these rules when they are permanently put in place.
Mr. Black, thank you so much for bringing that to the room's attention. There is only 10 more days. There are only 10 more days where you can comment. And if anyone has anything they want to suggest to the General Assembly, bring to their attention. It's a great opportunity. Thank you, sir.
At that August meeting, will we also be just hearing something about the plans for educating regarding, education regarding voter ID and how people are going to manage that?
One of the things that I'm waiting to see is what we get from Raleigh in that regard. One of the really important things, there are a lot of changes on the electoral landscape for 23 and 24. I think everybody's aware of that. And one of the important things is educating the community about all of these changes so that they can use the electoral process as smoothly and easily as possible. And that requires resources. And up to this point, we have not seen resources earmarked, sufficient resources earmarked for that. And it's my hope with these various bills being discussed in Raleigh right now that one or more of them will end up including the resources that we need to make things work well. One of the best things that we can do is remind our elected officials in Raleigh how important it is that we do educate our communities as well as possible. All those folks in Raleigh got elected, and I think the easiest way to get reelected is to make it as clear as possible for people in the community what they need to do to go vote. So I continue to keep my fingers crossed that we're going to get the resources. But it's a really great question, and it's just kind of too soon to know. The county boards of elections are attending statewide training in the middle of August, and it is my hope that a lot of these issues will have been clarified by them, so that we'll hear from the Oracle exactly how we're supposed to proceed, and all 100 county boards can go out in unison and do the work the exact same way. But yeah, listen to Mr. Black here, use that portal, and Director Duncan mentioned various pieces of legislation. You can comment on all that stuff. North Carolina General Assembly has a nice means for us to participate, so we just have to take advantage of that opportunity. Good question. Anyone else have any questions, comments? Thank you all for coming. Really appreciate it. Again, if you haven't signed the book, I hope you do it on your way out. And see you all on August 1st. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, Mr. Aceto, for your virtual participation. 4:14 p.m.
Kareem?